Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Married at First Sight. Let's watch the show.
So, got back from vacation. And I think I was just, in my own head with a lot of this stuff, and I was just constantly distracted. Like, even when I'm with clients, I'm just like kind of dazing off and putting them through the motions. And people looked at me, clients and friends and coworkers, and they were like, something is wrong with you. They were just like, visually, you can tell. It's kind of a humbling experience, to say the least.
Every time Zach does talk, I tend to space out. I think that he's just too focused on himself. I feel like he just talks in circles and doesn't really ever make a point. I wait for him to get there, and it ends up just talking about himself and not really ever making a point about them.
No, it has to.
So that's an interesting observation about Zach's communication style. And that's an indication of something, gives us a little bit more data. Because for us to watch a TV show about him talking to other people, that gives us some data. But there's so much more data that you can get when you're actually interacting with the person. As a therapist, one of the best ways that I can detect someone's personalities, their defenses, their projective identifications, and their projections is through being in a room with them, actually interacting with them. Because you get these feelings. Like, I'm guessing for him, he's Austin, I think his name is. I think he's probably, he's saying, Zach talks on and on. He doesn't really seem to be interacting with me. And I feel like he's just talking to talk. That was the gist of what he was saying. And you only get that vibe when you're actually interfacing with someone. You get this feeling like, so they're just talking and they're not really asking me questions. They're not letting me say anything. And when I do say something, they don't really seem to care that I'm saying anything. That's when you really get that good data about what's going on with someone's personality. What that points to is what I'm going to call grandiose, defensive, autonomous personality, because I'm trying to avoid certain terms because the internet doesn't understand our terms. There's terms in personality that are completely bastardized on the internet right now. And so I'm going to call what Austin is picking up on is pathological independence, pathological autonomous. So when you are raised in a way that compels you as a young person to become extremely autonomous, one of the things that you do is you just stop depending on other people. And you also stop really communicating to other people because it's like, well, what's the point in communicating to them? Because they don't really care about my feelings. So, but I do have the need to communicate sometimes. So I'm just going to talk over here and I'm going to keep you at a distance as I'm talking. And because if I'm really vulnerable and I actually try to interact with you, that gives you the chance to reject me. And I learned when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, just don't do that because odds are you're just going to get hurt. But I do have some need to communicate, so I'll communicate and I'll make sure not to let you in. And what that does to the other person is it just makes them feel like you're just yammering at me and you're not really letting me in on the conversation. And when I have things to offer, you're very quick to get rid of it. As a therapist, we run into this sometimes with clients where you feel like, I don't really feel like the client is actually trying to talk with me. And when I try to ask questions, I feel like it's just shunned or put to the side. Now, a lot of times, this can be a person who's like 13 years old, and that's just the developmental stage that they're in. They're vulnerable. They don't really have a mature adult-like empathy for other people, and they're just yammering, and they don't really care about you interacting. They just want you to watch them as they talk. Not all 13-year-olds by any stretch, but sometimes. But what about someone who's 35, 30 years old? Why would they be that way? Well, it's because of this pathological, autonomous style of it's avoidant attachment, this kind of thing. So I wonder if that is a indication of Zach's personality. It's just total speculation.
Based on how everything went through Panama, and say, like, let me at least have this space in the relationship and allow me to make that effort with the space to extend and get to know her versus moving in with her, everything kind of rumbling together, rolling together, and me not being in a good spot.
Okay, so you guys aren't living with each other right now. I'm a little perplexed by Zach's choice of actions. I think, if you're not moving in with her, then why are you here? Why are you doing this? And you're doing it with someone else, not just yourself.
So as Zach has said, which I think is a valid strategy, he has said, I don't have the feelings, the spark, the love, even the attraction to Mindy. Even though I think she's beautiful and smart, it's just not there. Okay, we can establish that that's okay for someone to have, right? We don't want to pathologize Zach for having that. We can pathologize Zach for other things, who knows, but not for that. People out there, we've all had someone like us and we're like, no, not into it. So that's just a thing. That's understandable. Sometimes we're the ones that's like no, and sometimes the other people are saying no. If it was never that way, then the first person you meet would always be the person you married. And how many times does that happen? So it's usually, you do this with many people, and then you find the right person. So there's nothing wrong with Zach doing that. And there's also nothing wrong in my book to have a strategy for Zach of saying, look, I felt like I was on top of someone that I wasn't really attracted to, and he's not saying this directly because I'm guessing he's worried about it not playing well on camera. But I could see, so people out there, imagine that you go out on imagine the first, think about the last person you went on a Tinder date with, and you didn't have any chemistry with them. You didn't like them. Maybe they liked you, but you didn't like them. And you're just like, nope, not feeling it. Within the first 5 minutes, I just knew this person wasn't the one. Now imagine that a TV show makes you move in with that person for 7 days or however long the honeymoon was. You're in the same hotel room. You're on top of each other. And you're just like, I don't even like this person. You can imagine that would make it harder to like that person because you're forced to be with someone that you're not ready to be with. You could imagine getting uptight and like, get me out of here, claustrophobia. It would make total sense to have a strategy of like, get me out of here. Let me get my bearings. Let me revisit this person and see if I can actually fall in love with her. We're married. I want to give that a chance. Now, Zach is not very good at describing this. He talks in circles. I don't know if he's avoiding something or he developed some defense around evasion or not being very clear to other people, which I think annoys other people. But now the other part of this is that I think Mindy said in a clip that I didn't show you guys, Mindy said something to the effect of they have been living apart now for a few days, maybe longer. I don't know how long, but and he hasn't, and they haven't even seen each other. So it's been at least a few days. And Mindy and Zach haven't even, so Zach hasn't even initiated just like a date or something, which seems to be maybe having the pendulum swing a little too far. But anyway, let's get back to Zach.
We're not friends, we are married.
I'm still in this. And I haven't backed out. I've questioned myself. I didn't come into this thinking, if I don't get the girl I'm attracted to immediately, screw it. But you have to have a friendship as a foundation, though, right? You have to start somewhere, right?
Correct.
So that's all I'm saying is that. I certainly, is important to me at this point to at least value that for sure.
So it's hard to figure out what's going on in Zach's mind because on the surface, through his confusing way of speaking, he's saying he's fully into it, he's married, and he wants to make it work, and he wants to get a friendship going, and he wants to get some romance going and maybe fall in love with her, maybe get that spark and that attraction. But he doesn't seem to be doing anything to get it. Now, looks to be maybe their first meeting back from the honeymoon. And things that I'm just trying to think, like, what would he be doing that would indicate to me that he actually is trying to do something? I would imagine that sitting down, faced eye contact, and asking questions. Maybe that would be the thing I'd be looking for, is him just saying, hey, tell me who you are. They don't actually do that a lot on these shows, any of these shows. Bachelor, Love is Blind. Well, maybe Love is Blind, they actually did kind of do that when they were in the pods. But you would think that this is what dates are like. If you've ever been on first dates, it's a lot of, how many siblings do you have? What's your job? What's your dreams in life? Where do you want to be in 5? Well, that's an interview question. But what sports did you play? What are your recurring dreams? I don't know. That's a therapist question to ask on a first date, I suppose. So Zach doesn't seem to be doing that. Now, why would he not do that? Well, I think there's two possibilities. One is that Zach is like, I'm just going to bide my time because I don't think this is going to work, and it sounds like they have a process on this show where they have 8 weeks to decide if they're going to stay in the marriage or not. which I find to be just an arbitrary. I don't like it when they put these arbitrary limits on things. But anyway, so he could be thinking, I'll just ride this out for 8 weeks, and I'll say, no, this isn't working for me. And I'll try to look my best through that over time on television camera. Another possibility is that he actually does want to work on this, but he's so pathologically autonomous that he waits for people to come over the wall to meet him. And he's not used to going over the wall and becoming vulnerable to being hurt, and then he goes back to his walls. I don't know. I'd want to talk with him about that because the ball's in his court, and he isn't really going with it. The ball is in his court, and he's just letting it bounce out of bounds.
What does the next baby step look like to you? Tomorrow, the next day, the next couple days.
Hanging out.
Okay.
Good. Open to that. Hang out. Ask each other questions. Hold hands. Maybe have a awkward makeout session. The kind of things you do in the first few dates.
So, like, what is your plan moving forward?
Mallory, don't do this to me.
Oh, but I am.
To have more of a presence with Mindy.
Cool. What does that mean?
Hanging out with her. Actively
Okay.
hanging out with her.
Okay.
The decision on the moving thing was a decision I felt, I guess, create space and allow me to have effort to.
So did
Actively
you,
hanging
like,
with her.
when you made the plan to go on the show, be like, well, I'm not going to move in regardless?
No.
Okay. This is the on-the-fly kind of thing. Got it.
Yeah.
Zach is so bad at explaining things to people. I don't know why that is. I don't know what's going on there. Either he just is not very good at explaining things, or he's not good at explaining things because he's worried he's going to reveal things that are going to be bad for him to reveal. I don't know what's going on. If I was in his shoes, I'd be like, look, I'm glad that you're concerned about your friend, and just to be, full disclosure, I want to build a romantic feeling between the two of us, and I'm 100% into that. And the way that I do that is to have some space and then coming together, and have some space and coming together. I think it might work. That would be much more inspirational to the people around, instead of the way he responds, which is just so lackluster. He just, oh yeah, I mean, and he says a lot of words that don't make a ton of sense together. But some people have a hard time communicating.
I don't think he really has a plan other than to make it look like he's going to try. I don't trust him at all. I don't trust him to protect her. She's still willing to try and willing to put up with him. But they need to have real conversations, and she needs to not let him get away with saying pretty words that mean nothing.
So that is one possibility, like I said, is that he's just biding his time and he's not really that interested. But this other perspective where she's saying to Mindy, you got to put your foot down and make him not get away with things. I don't know if that's going to work, right? You can't rope someone into falling in love with you. And I get that the friend wants to stick up for Mindy, which is good. And maybe the way that I guess I would stick up for Mindy if I were her friend would be like, I'm sorry you're going through this. This sucks. This show matched you up with the wrong person. If anyone we should be upset with, it's the 3 experts who used dubious science to match these people up. But it looks like maybe time will tell. And I really hope that your feelings aren't hurt too much during this process, and I'll be there for you. And if this works out, then awesome. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll be there for you to drink a bottle of wine with, and just know that I'm here for you. That kind of talk, rather than I'm going to get that Zach guy because he's hurting my friend, so I'm going to get him, instead of, I don't know. I mean, each friend is going to do their own thing, but that's what I would have done. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. If I haven't introduced myself, my name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, And everyone out there, please take care of yourself. Take care of others because you deserve it. You really, really do.